sales dropping by so much? You better find out the reason for the drop in sales, or all of you will end up unemployed. Get to work!
Fuel prices are so high recently. Maybe we should just stop driving out to buy groceries.
Maybe that's the reason why our sales are dropping.
Hey, what do you think will happen if we don't find out why the sales are dropping? Do you think we'll get fired?
Maybe that's the reason why people have stopped shopping here. Because there is unemployment.
Wow, things are getting so expensive nowadays. This used to be $1.
Wow, the weather damn hot. Turn on the aircon faster. Go, go, go.
Put on.
What have you all found out?
We found out some of the factors that are causing our sales price to drop mainly due to fuel price. Unemployment.
Okay, very good. But I need to prove that these factors are truly affecting the company. So you all go come up with the statistics to prove to me.
We use linear regression to predict the value of the weekly sales based on the values of the other independent variables. Firstly, when temperature increases by 1 unit, there is a 885.70 decrease in sales. It is also observed that the p-value 0.0254 is smaller than 0.05, indicating that it is statistically significant and has an impact on a small magnitude. This may result in a slight drop in sales as the temperature increases. This might be because higher temperature reduces demand for certain groceries or indoor goods.
For the fuel prices, when it increased by 1 unit, there was a 12248.4 decrease in sales. This p-value at 0.4368, larger than 0.05, would indicate that it is not significant and has no meaningful impact on the sales. This indicated that fuel prices do not meaningfully affect the Walmart sales, suggesting that customers may not adjust shopping behavior based on gas costs.
For CPI, when the CPI increases by 1 unit, there was a 15845.8 decrease in sales. The p-value is also way smaller than 0.05, indicating that it is highly significant and has a meaningful impact on the sales. This indicates that CPI is highly significant in affecting Walmart sales, suggesting that with a higher cost of living, consumers may reduce spending slightly, which reflects in the price sensitivity of consumers.
For unemployment, when the unemployment increased by 1 unit, there was a 4.1215 decrease in sales. The p-value was way lower than 0.05, indicating that it is statistically significant and has a significant impact on sales. It may be because job losses reduce consumers' purchasing power.
How would we know if the relationship is biased or balanced towards extreme outcomes that can significantly impact the sales? Well, we can check the skewness of the data and log independent variables whose value is greater than 1 or less than -1. After testing the skewness of our independent variables, we found the following. Temperature has a skewness of -0.3367, fuel price has a skewness of -0.0961, CPI has a skewness of 0.0634, while unemployment has a skewness of 1.1879.
As for the skewness values, temperature, fuel price, and CPI all fall within the ranges of -1 to +1, which means that they are pretty close to being symmetric. However, unemployment has a skewness value greater than 1, indicating a right skewed data. Because of this, we need to log transform the unemployment variable to make the data more normal and suitable for analysis.
Now, let's interpret the result. Since the unemployment has a skewness greater than 1, we log transform the variable, after which it has a coefficient of -322,058.8, which means that for every 1 unit increase in unemployment, weekly sales are expected to decrease by 322,000. The p-value is way less than 0.05, which is extremely small. This tells us that the relationship between unemployment and weekly sales is statistically significant. So, we can confidently say that changes in unemployment are impacting Walmart sales.
The coefficient for temperature is 990.3. This means that for every 1 unit increase in temperature, weekly sales are expected to decrease by $990.3. The p-value for temperature is 0.0123, which is less than 0.05, indicating that the relationship is statistically significant, so temperature does have a small but meaningful effect on weekly sales.
The coefficient for fuel price is -13657.9, meaning that for every 1 unit increase in fuel price, weekly sales are expected to decrease by $13,000. However, the p-value for fuel price is 0.3873, which is greater than 0.05, suggesting that fuel price is not statistically significant. This means that changes in fuel price may not have a reliable impact on weekly sales in this model.
The coefficient for CPI is -1445.8, meaning that for every 1 unit increase in CPI, weekly sales are expected to decrease by 1,000. The p-value for CPI is extremely small and well below the 0.05 threshold, indicating that this relationship is highly statistically significant, so CPI has a meaningful effect on the weekly sales.
Lastly, let us conduct a correlation analysis to see which variables affects Walmart's weekly sales the most. The correlation coefficient, known as R, measures the strength and direction of the linear relationship between two numerical variables, and always ranges between -1 and +1.
In RStudio, we do this using the following codes, which give us the final result to interpret. Based on the results, the correlation of Walmart's weekly sales and temperature is 0.0638, which suggests a very weak and negative relationship. While it's close to 0, the negative sign indicates a very small inverse relationship. However, it is so weak that the temperature likely has little effect on sales.
The correlation of weekly sales and fuel prices resulted in 0.0095, extremely close to 0. This means that there is virtually no relationship between fuel prices and sales, so we conclude that fuel prices have no noticeable effect on sales.
The correlation of weekly sales and CPI is -0.0726, which is very weak and negative, but close to 0. This suggests a very weak negative relationship between CPI and sales. While there might be a slight inverse relationship, it's so weak that CPI likely has no meaningful effect on sales.
Finally, the correlation of weekly sales and unemployment is -0.1062, which is still weak but slightly stronger than the other factors. It suggests a weak negative relationship between these two factors. While there is a slight inverse relationship, it's still weak enough to conclude that unemployment only slightly affects weekly sales.
In summary, there is no meaningful effect for temperature, fuel prices, and CPI. However, there is a slight negative effect on unemployment. However, while correlation coefficients show that the strength and direction of the relationship between Walmart's weekly sales and the four variables, it is important to note that correlation does not equal causation. This means that even if two variables are related, one does not necessarily cause the other to change due to the external or confounding factors that may influence both variables.
Okay, well done on the statistics. But I need you all to come up with solutions to help boost our sales also. So can you help me do that? Yeah.
Since unemployment is one of our factors that causes our sales to go down more significantly, maybe you can try to offer under prices or give out discount cards, and also you can implement a buy now pay later option by paying installment.
Sales is also affected by CPI, which is Consumer Price Index. So we can combat this by making use of major shopping events like Black Friday and 11/11 sales to boost sales. And also implement a price lock campaign during this period for essentials so that the price doesn't increase by a lot.
Temperature is not so significant, but we still suffer from it quite a bit. We think that we can build shaded or air-conditioned drive-thrus to make the experience better for customers, and also have pickup services so that customers don't have to walk around for too long in the heat.
And fuel price is also one of the factors, so maybe we can ask the company to relocate closer to other areas in housing estates. Or we can also offer more affordable home deliveries so customers don't have to travel all the way down to our store. As it is relatively insignificant, we suggest to focus less on it and focus more on electric items.
Okay, thank you for all your suggestions. I'll talk to the boss and see what we can implement. So well done.
Thank you.